Joining us now, George Jamerson. He's the Director of Government Relations at the Heartland Institute. Hey, George, good to have you, man.
John, it's good to be on.
George, so this acronym, this is one of these acronyms that people don't know what it is. It's called RGGI. People say like, what the heck is RGGI? Okay, it's RGGI. This is the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Now, let me just warn my audience. This has nothing to do with AOC's banning farting cows. Nothing. Has nothing to do with that whatsoever. This is a serious issue. RGGI. This is another lame brain scheme by the environmental crazies to take your jobs away and shut power plants down. George, explain to us, what is RGGI? What's going to be its impact?
So that's a pretty good, brief, really summary. It's going to kill jobs and it's going to shut down plants in Virginia. And there's a specific way that it aims to do that. And what RGGI is it's an interstate cap and trade program made up mainly of the New England states of New York, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland. And what these cap and trade programs do is that they will limit the amount of carbon dioxide emissions that a business or organization can produce. And then what they do is they force an organization where if they want to go over that cap, they have to purchase emission allowances from another organization that has a plant that has not exceeded their cap. And with RGGI in Virginia, they're starting out at basically any power plant larger than 28 megawatts is going to have to purchase emission allowances. And if you talk to anyone or most companies here in Virginia, they'll tell you that their plants are not going to, meet this requirement. So they're going to be having to purchase allowances. And the whole goal of cap and trade and RGGI is to price out fossil fuel generation from the market. That's the whole point of it, is to completely get rid of fossil fuel generation. And then what happens there, of course, is that the costs for ratepayers go up because as the companies are paying more in order to generate this output, the individual ratepayers are going to be the ones who are going to have to shoulder that cost.
So how did this sneak up on people? Like there was no coverage of this really in the General Assembly of Virginia this session, and all of a sudden it pops up, and we've got a deadline on it. The Governor Cottonball, whatever his name is there, Governor Tunnels. By the way, we call him Governor Tunnels because he can't get in or out of the mansion without going through a tunnel. So now Governor Tunnels saying he might sign it, but of course nobody can talk to him because he's in hiding. What's the deal with that?
So it kind of goes under the radar. Mainly one of the reasons that this stuff goes under the radar is because cap and trade in and of itself is a massive Trojan horse for regressive taxes. They say it's cap and trade, and they make it out to be this, it's some type of, like green trading coalition. That's not what it is. It's a carbon dioxide tax that they have basically put fluff around. So when people mention carbon tax or gas tax, people are going to pay attention. They're like, I don't want that. I mean, if you look at, even Washington State, as green as they are, they've been rejecting these increased gas taxes that they're putting out there. So it can be an aggressive situation when you just call something a gas tax, but when you do a cap and trade scheme, you're sort of masking what you're doing. So it sounds nice. It sounds, we're going to start, reducing emissions, even though that's not really what happens in these schemes. If you look at RGGI states, their emission reduction has been negligible. It's been online with national averages that have been going down since the fracking revolution. Also, I think with the situation in the Capitol with the governor has kind of pushed this out of the news. So no one's really paying attention to this. No one really knows about what happened in the legislature was that they did pass a bill that said that Governor Northam nor any state agency can put Virginia into RGGI without 2/3 majority consent in both House and Senate. So this is the governor, on a second note, that's going to completely, essentially suspend the democratic process and unilaterally, by executive order, put Virginia into this terrible cap and trade scheme that's going to, without question, shut down power plants. Because what's going to happen is that when you have these emission caps, right, just like with any renewable scheme, and this goes back to the AOC thing, is that it all kind of goes back to Obama's big, terrible, renewable mandate plan, because that's how this works, is that they're going to put caps on emissions, and then each year those caps are going to be reduced, while those purchase allowances are going to increase. So the trigger price is going to increase every single year. And the State Corporation Commission actually testified saying specifically what this was, is that this was to increase fossil fuel generation so that it would be less competitive in the market. I mean, talk picking winners and losers. This is textbook picking winners and losers.
So does Governor Tunnels have the authority to unilaterally put Virginia in this mess?
Unfortunately, he does have the ability to unilaterally put them into it. Now, whether or not there can be some type of legal challenge to what the governor's doing, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. I think that might be more in the realm of some lawyers or a legislator who could tell you that much. But he is within his authority, unfortunately, to do what he's doing. And he made a statement on there's basically right now he's left this open for comment. If anybody wants to, if you go to townhall.virginia.gov, go to the comment forum, and then under the Air Pollution Board, there's comments where people can voice their opposition to it. He's basically says in a statement that he's like, I want to open this up for comment, but just FYI, I have all the power to do this if I want to. So, I mean, talk about arrogance of Governor Northam doing this, but he's at least allowing for people to comment. Whether that's going to really do anything or not, we don't know. And to be fair, like, he hasn't vetoed this bill and he hasn't put Virginia in it yet, but all insinuations that he's given say that he is going to do this.
So if he can override, if he can do whatever he wants, what is the purpose then of the comment day for people to make comments on this? Is it just for show, or what is it? And should people even bother?
Have a show of, I care. I care. Trust me. You can comment. I think that I think that people commenting, though, opposing is going to be good, though. If people can, if people are listening out there and want to go and oppose it, I think that the more people that oppose it, the more he's going to be put on notice for this. And one of the things that I find so ironic about this is you mentioned Governor Blackface, is that with this cap and trade scheme is that the electricity rates are going to be shown, and they've been shown by the State Corporation Commission it's going to increase rates over the next 10 years between $3.5 and $5.9 billion on ratepayers, and that's about $7 to $12 per month on your bill. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, who gets affected the most by this? Low income, urban minority communities.
Right.
So the people that, Ralph Northam is trying to get back into the good graces of, he's about to slap a massive utility bill on them, in which, if you just have to look at places like California and what happened, California is what I call the epitome of cap and trade failure, in which their cap and trade program basically thrust 10 million people into what we like to call energy poverty, because they're spending such a huge percentage of their income on their electricity bills.
Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. Great update. We're with George Jamerson. He's the Director of Government Relations of the Heartland Institute, and we are talking about Governor Tunnels attempting to ram through something called RGGI, RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Sounds innocent and innocuous enough on its face, but as George has been telling us, this is another nefarious plan by the environmental wackos in order to cost us jobs and drive up rates by putting caps on emissions that don't mean anything in order to drive out the production of energy through fossil fuels. It's just a backdoor attempt at doing that. and those states that are participating in it, you pay higher rates and you lose jobs. Like, why would we do that? And people go out of business. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's no net benefit here to Virginia. I think, when you look at RGGI states, like I said, the emission loss is negligible. Their rates for electricity are 39% above national average. Virginia right now is at about 12% below national average. There's nothing that Virginia stands to gain here except, Governor Northam scoring some points with his green crew. And, the green cult who, says, follow me or else the world's going to end in 10 years.
12.
And not to mention that when we talk about individuals, just on the electricity rates, you got to think about all the industries that are energy intensive, that rely on fossil fuel production. So it's just a major windfall economically. And I saw a press release by Northam's office the other day that was touting how there's a big plant in Chesterfield, and it was touting about how we're going to open up this massive call center in Chesterfield, and it's going to provide 600 call center jobs. And I thought, man, that's the typical fluff from these environmental. Is like, we're going to kill all of these jobs, and then they always talk about living wage jobs. Those are living wage jobs, not the 600 low-paying call center jobs. So they kind of fluff it, like, we're going to create all these jobs, but they don't talk about the jobs lost. Mm-hmm. I remember situations in Washington State where they tried to close an oil by rail terminal down in Vancouver, Washington, and the fluff was, well, we're going to build a high-rise apartment, and there's going to be shops at the bottom. And I was like, so you're going to close a $3.2 billion revenue maker for a McDonald's and Starbucks and some apartments? It's very typical of the environmental left and how they work.
Let me read a text here by Den in Chesapeake, who says, tell your guest to inform his listeners that the fact that CO2 is an insignificant greenhouse gas in the atmosphere in comparison to water vapor, i.e. clouds. George, is that true or false?
So when we talk about CO2 emissions, that's a huge thing as well. Is that there's no data here that shows that CO2 is making some type of drastic systemic impact on the climate, which is what they keep touting. So this goes into the whole topic of the climate catastrophe and CO2 emissions, but there's really no data here to suggest that this is going to massively impact the environment. So, this whole cap and trade and reducing emissions, so you want to reduce CO2 emissions. What is that going to do?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right. If people do want to make comment on this, George Jamerson, where do they go?
So they can go right now. There's on www.townhall.virginia.gov. There is a public comments forum, and people can go to that website that I just said, www.townhall.virginia.gov. On the left-hand side, there's a comments forum. You click on that, and there will be regulatory activity forums, and you can go to view and enter comments at the Air Pollution Board, which is where this is sort of, the regulations are being proposed through right now. And then people can comment on, why they oppose this. And, I think, we've had a solid discussion on what the negative effects on Virginia are. And I don't think we said anything positive effects on Virginia here.
Well, there is none. There are no positive effects other than rates go up, jobs are lost. And this is just another backhanded backdoor ploy by Governor Blackface and his counterparts in there in order to backdoor Virginia out of jobs and fossil fuel energy. I mean, it's all it is. And so, call it what it is. Say, look, we want a bill to ban fossil fuels, and you're going to pay higher rates and lose jobs, and it'll have no impact on the environment at all. But we're for it because those are the people those are the big donors from California giving us money. If they'd be honest about it, at least you can have an honest talk about it, but that's really what the bottom line is. George, thank you very much.
Let's not even forget to mention before I go about one of the biggest donors to Northam's campaign was Next Gen America, Tom Steyer's front group. So you're not wrong there.
Right, Tom Steyer and all the other wackos. John Fredericks Radio Network, good to have you with us. George Jamerson, the Director of Government Relations, the Heartland Institute. And George, we thank you for being with us today. George, people want more information very quickly. Where do they go?
If people want more information on Reggie, Heartland Institute has done quite a bit of research. We've done a lot of research across the states on cap and trade and Reggie. If they want, they can go to www.heartland.org, look at our analysts and their publications. There's a wealth of information on cap and trade schemes and what they've done to other states and why they're not. This is going to be a massive regressive tax on Virginia.
All right, we're out of time. John Fredericks Radio Network. We'll be right back. Stay with us.